And we are back with another episode of like behind the scenes type stuff for cards. Um, so the next thing I'm going to be going about is I really didn't explain all the other characters 1, 2, and 3. So I did explain Metal, I did explain Zero. I didn't really explain 3 or 2. So in the original draft, this Alvin Lomax is Alex Lomax's brother. This is was supposed to be Alvin's wife, and they would have she would be pregnant at the end of Cards Zero, and before the events of the original Cards, they would both get blown up in the nuclear power plant accident. So that would give the main character, Alex, the reason to be angry at the world. So it's basically that is explained as to why he is so angry like that. His anger really is to Alvin's is his main character trait. Him getting over his anger is kind of a lot of his character arc. 3 really was a blank slate until I thought about just making her the main villain because I was like, that's just way more interesting. She really was not really a good character, to be honest, and that's what made her way better. So I really was like, you know, it, it was good that I had left enough wiggle room to where I could just play around and do whatever I felt like for a story, but it kind of really bit me in the butt because I had to keep giving reasons to be like, you can obviously tell that I was not planned because it just she eventually just turns bad. I mean, I wrote it in because it was like I feel like making it and going that direction, but it clearly wasn't planned. But yeah, Sarah is the main antagonist for the whole series. I guess spoilers if I ever write the sequel story, but she is like she and Dee are the only ones who survive past the Zero timeline. Um, she is just kind of an amalgamation of character traits I don't really like in people. I don't really like people who are fake. I don't like people who are just. So the whole thing of her is that she is just someone who thinks that they're just so much better than everybody else, which is just something that irks me in life. I think people who admit that they can be wrong are just infinitely like better human beings because you need to be able to admit when you've messed up. And for Sarah, it's like she never admits that she's wrong, even with her plan of like, so she wants to be in the academy so badly over anything else, over realizing anything else. And because of that, she ruined out a great opportunity. Now, granted, she probably, if she didn't join the academy, she would be dead in the events of like Cards Part 1 because she would have to be with Zero going on these like death trap missions. So it really wouldn't have been good for her to decide to like not be in the predicament that she's in, but the fact that she had someone who could have like loved her and she just orchestrates that Dee kills Doug, it's like, I mean, it's tragic. It's like she never had a good life because of that. She really just completely kneecapped herself, and no one likes her because of that. Um, I know it's like a weird thing to put traits on characters that like you don't really like. Um, Encoding overloaded. What the heck does that mean? Hmm. Um. Anyway, yeah. So it's just she was kind of a character I just kind of kept making a villain in the end. I think she's a lot more entertaining because she was working on the inside the entire time. But yeah, it's just her. No one likes her. It's like no matter what she does, she's just unlikable. And I said that in my other side stories video, which this is being filmed like I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks past what I did. But I just felt like I had to do this. So yeah, like Sarah. Yeah, she's just a character that I think she's never real with anyone ever, under any circumstances. The only time that she is real is when she's by herself. And, you know, Like when she's at the casino date, it's like that's her. She's just absolutely dour that no one likes her, but she can't admit it because she used D to get rid of Doug, and there's no going back from that. It's a permanent. It's a permanent thing. Now, granted, it's not because he does get partially revived. It's not the same Doug because it's Jack who revives like a version of Doug who would have existed, but it's not the same one. So, and even then, he wouldn't have lasted super long. So, yeah. So on the next thing is P. I was watching the X Files at the time because it was free on Tubi. I literally watched like one season while I was writing this. I was like, you know what? I like the idea of just a trench coat walking around, dude, and that basically is what it was. He's a guy who can just teleport automatically. He lies about his card's weakness, which I never wrote in here, but his ability is he can teleport automatically, but he can choose to be seen by whoever. He just automatically does it if you're left-handed, but since left-handed people are so uncommon, like you can see him if you're left-handed. He's just lying because he knew someone who was left-handed. So he kind of grew into a character I really liked. I thought that him helping Doug at the end was like, since I had to get rid of metal, was just something I really liked. It was really cool. I think, like I said, he's really kind of inspired by like Fox Mulder of the X-Files, which is kind of like, weird to say because he really kind of is his own thing now, but that's kind of where he was inspired from. Yeah, the all the other main antagonists, that's another thing that sucks in this book. I think like all the antagonists I never really did anything with. Dreamer's different because he was a character I just really liked writing, but he really didn't shake out, to be honest with you. But like, yeah, all the other characters, man, you couldn't even. They probably have like two sentences that are worth remembering. But you need a good antagonist to make the story good, and that's why Sarah was a good placement because I liked writing her. But I obviously gave up, and I didn't write the rest of these characters being good. I think Nakajima is actually pretty cold. I like that about him, and he's the only one I kept around because I still liked writing him. Jack, his first introduction, he... So he was originally a character I had a character design for in the original one, and he just kind of snowballed. He's kind of like, I guess, Deadpool-esque in terms of his like humor and delivery, which is not something that's like the end of the world, I guess, in terms of like, oh, he's not super annoying or like whatever, but he he never actually originally was Dee's sister. And he still is blood related to her, but it's only through cousin blood relation, not brothers, because they're all like adopted, I guess, brothers and sisters in the card program. And what happens is they basically just take a bunch of kids who they want the card reset to happen, so they keep on using it and using it and using it. So they keep culling these kids to just get them to have more powers at the end of it. So when the card reset happens, they're the ones controlling all of it. But yeah, Jack is like another one of my favorite characters because I wrote him. I was like, yeah, why don't I like have some levity in here? If he's a guy who can do like reality warping, he'd basically be unstoppable. He there's a lot of funny things I did with him, like especially in negative one where he's just sitting on a toilet and it's a double panel page. You can go read it if you want, where it shows D is putting down her keys, and then Jack is on the toilet, and in between both of them it says plop, like he's taking a dump. Like, I thought that was really funny. He's like a good chaotic evil, I guess, character. I don't think it's cringy. That's the thing. It's hard to write that fine line where Jack is not being cringy, but he's being genuinely semi-funny. I think like Deadpool really kind of gets annoying after a while because he's never ever fully serious, but at least with Jack he is semi-serious. But let's see, did I do anything anything else. Yeah, the D. So, like, the next part that I did was the kiss with D is something. So, like, yeah, there's, like, so many ideas, I guess I could just keep going on and on and on. I won't keep doing that, by the way, but I guess there's really no point in any dragging. I mean, I'm already going to be dragging it out. This is more for myself than anyone else. It's kind of just behind the scenes type stuff. So this sets up the love triangle between Dee, Sarah, and Doug. I mean, you can see like it was semi set up. I didn't really like do much with it, but Sarah and Doug making food together juxtapose. Well, I don't think juxtapose is a correct word, but then right after that, Dee is like super pissed off and wants to be with Doug, and it set up something very interesting where it's like I think it's set up good in the beginning, where you're like, okay, well, Dee is clearly after him for some reason. I kind of made it like super cringy and like kind of out of control at a certain point where it's like, it really wasn't working. Like that's probably one of the thing I've written the most in those like other books that I didn't show is just them loving each other, which is like, I don't know why I really liked writing that, but I did, and it just doesn't work. The more you write stuff like that, unless it's like the balance I said with Jack, where it's like it's got to be like that perfect. I mean, it's almost has to be like a perfect balance of it cannot be overwhelming, or it just gets annoying, which it kind of did when I kept rewriting it every single time. But for those two being together, Dee and Doug, that was something that I did reference multiple times, and you'll see in book 3. And this was set up in the beginning that they were going to get together in terms of like what they did. But it's like when Alvin says, she has enough strength to end you. Like, are you really wanting to be with that? And it's mentioned like 2 other times, and actually no, Sarah says, if I don't stop you, you're going to be with Dee, and she's going to end you, which does happen. I mean, it's because of Sarah, but it still happens. I guess it's debatable if it's between if it's between Dee or Sarah, but I would still say it's pretty much like inspired. I mean, it's mostly Sarah's fault, but still. But yeah, just like the going back and forth of them being together, I really liked writing. I think that it kind of comes out of nowhere in like a kind of really freaky way, like like, ooh, why did she do that? Then you kind of get to like ask questions about it later. Um, so yeah, I really like the romance. There's really nothing to say in like that part because I didn't really write. Like, I'm not to that point where I can just talk about it. It's kind of like later on. And yeah, like I said when I was reading it, this is a cold scene, dude. That's like cooler than anything else. Just him being above him, you just hear pop, and he just kneels down, and just grabs him like that. That 3-page panel is way better than anything else. So we have Scrapper now, and that was like, again, that was something I just kept rewriting over and over and over again. So in the rewrite, the like 4th or 5th one that I did, probably more accurately 6th, because I've done like 7 to 9, give or take. Doug was taken by them. He cannot really use his powers, so someone like Scrapper would be a good person to fight against him to show that he can use his powers and reflect it, as opposed to everything coming towards him at that point. Scrapper was also supposed to be a character who is somewhat of an inversion of Doug, where he swears a lot, similar to Doug. He also is someone who really doesn't have any powers, and he has a huge like robot arm, way bigger than what is shown on here. And Doug learns to be a hero at the end of his fight with Scrapper in the rewrite. But it's like you know, I think it's a lot better in that rewrite, but again, I can't keep adding characters over and over again. He should have just ended right there. And again, we added yet another character who's the president, so that was another thing that just kept on going over and over. Um, I think I touched on this a little bit where I think, like I said, this came from a really isolated and bad time in my life, so I really did write the like dourness in here. I think it was a lot better in here as opposed to doing some of the other arcs where I did way too much in terms of what I was writing. It's honestly, it's pretty dark. It's a lot. It's even more dark than Dee's chapter, if you could even believe it. I mean, it's like, I mean, we're talking about it's really bad. It's so bad I don't even want to like show it on YouTube. Not like it wouldn't be within character for him, but it's just like it's way too dark. Those people can understand, they can infer a lot more than you think, and having it be anything more than like this where he's pissed off. And that was another thing too, like in all the rewrites I made him more angry that he was stuck there, but when he was more angry it was like it's too much. It's like like no one wants to read that. You know, you don't do too much. It's hard to find a balance for all that stuff over and over. You know, like you have to have balance. That's the key of like 99% of this stuff. So you can't have Doug be like every 5 seconds when he's in the beginning there like, you know, I've been kidnapped. I'm not going to help you guys. I'm, you know, this sucks. This like you don't want to hear that. You want to see him grow, which is what I did, but you don't want to see him like be annoying. You don't want to see him be annoying over and over and over and over and over again. Which when I reread it, I'm like, wow, this kind of is really annoying. Like I'm not saying that to put myself down, but yeah, it's almost hard to read. And then when he goes that, and then when he's really annoying, and then it's juxtaposed with like really sad stuff, it's not a thing you want to read. It's more for me. Like I guess those chapters are really just for me, but even then, it's like I find it hard to read. I don't want to read that. Who wants to read that? It's not good. Like in terms of that. But I think something like this, where it's simple, that he thinks he's the person who did it and dug all those graves, that's pretty all right. What else was there? I think this was a good point of them both being together, like Metal and Doug, like being on the same page since they're the exact same. I pretty much touched on a lot of this when I wrote. Yeah, I wrote left-handed when I was hurting my hand writing so much. Yeah, D. Yeah, yeah, that stuff. I didn't even read it because it was that boring. Okay, so yeah, now another one was the weed, the drug party. That was really funny. I really liked that. What else was there? What else can I put in between that, I guess? Because there was a lot that I just skipped over. It's really like not that deep though. It's kind of Metal's backstory. I kind of basically went over that. So I suppose it's good. See, this is where it's kind of like a lot more fun. It's not like all completely dour, and you can't. I mean, I get you can't make a story like that, but it's not really that fun. But you know, they all actually have consequences, and that's something where Sarah gets her hair cut and then it slowly grows back, which is something that I don't think a lot of, like, I do need the episodic thing to like keep me in check, but I did like this where it slowly grows back over time, where it's like, okay, so the flow of time is consistent. Oh, I guess that's something I could write too, where I kind of just kept skipping like 2 weeks over and over and over and over again, so I could have more stuff happen, and I said I would go fill back stuff later, and that's where I kept introducing stuff over and over again. Also, Doug getting a brick tattoo. That's kind of funny. I really like that. Yeah. What else is there? So yeah, this is before Sarah was. Okay, so here we are. This is like going back to metal being like a symbolic thing for like cancer, where it's like he has his metal hairs like growing in his body, and just people are using him. But again, this was before it was written like he's more sympathetic in negative one, which I was trying to use as like a springboard to write the original again for like mean zero again for like the seventh time. So of course it obviously if it didn't work the first six times, the seventh time wasn't gonna work. But yeah, it's pretty analogous to the fact that he just can't do what he wanted to do in life. Um, yeah, Prism. What happened to Prism? Where did MBG come? I mean, like, you really don't even know half this stuff, honestly, because it's like, never really liked him. I liked writing Jack and I liked writing Sarah, so that's who I wrote. I should have, and that's when I was like, I think I gotta redo it, but, it came to that point where it's like, I really can't. Uh, I guess since it's about 20 minutes, I think that's a fair stopping point because this is like where I really knew that I can write. Like not all the time. It's not all perfect, but I knew I could write through here. This book 2 is like where I finally started having really good ideas. Um so yeah, I will get back to you on that next episode. Thank you for watching.